Impact investing combines financial returns with positive social and environmental outcomes. Unlike traditional philanthropy, it seeks measurable benefits alongside profits. The market, now valued at over $1 trillion, is expanding into sectors like healthcare, sustainable agriculture, and renewable energy. Large institutions such as BlackRock and Goldman Sachs have adopted this strategy, driven by growing client demand in regulatory frameworks like the EU's Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. Standardized metrics developed by IRIS and the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB, ensure transparency and address challenges like impact washing. Impact investing aligns financial goals with societal benefits, leveraging more assets for greater philanthropic purposes. Although balancing these goals presents challenges, this approach empowers investors to foster a more sustainable and equitable world. By understanding impact investing, modern philanthropists can effectively contribute to societal progress while achieving financial gains. This innovative strategy not only amplifies philanthropic impact, but also helps create a resilient and inclusive future.
Kat, if you can get us started, this question, how can I invest my money so it makes the most good? Is that a question that high impact philanthropists ask?
For sure. And that's because, if you think of it, there are kind of three different types of capital that can advance positive social change or in some cases impede it. There's philanthropy to nonprofits. In the United States, that was over $400 billion worth of philanthropic capital went to nonprofits, public charities. But that's really just a drop in the ocean compared to the financial capital, investment capital available in the investment markets and what government, especially in a country, in a democracy like the United States, what government can spend to address needs in communities. So if where you're starting is how can all the money that I have some influence over make a bigger difference, you have to think across all three sectors. And there are actually ways to practice impact investing with nonprofits as well as with for-profits. The idea is just like with that introductory slide, is looking for those opportunities where you can create social impact alongside some non-negative 100 financial return. Because that's what a philanthropic gift is. You are out $100 if you make a $100 donation, but you're hoping there's a social return, that somebody, a family who didn't know where their next meal is going to come from, doesn't have to worry about that. With impact investing, you could, for example, make a loan to a nonprofit at a no interest or very low interest. You're going to get that $100 back, and then you can keep loaning it to other nonprofits who have some way to pay back. Or you could back a social enterprise, a new social enterprise like Humanitix and others. There have been some very big bets on biotech, where you have a nonprofit or a foundation that cares about things like new cures or ways to address diseases, and wound up investing in a biotech that actually in the end yielded some sort of drug or other treatment that for which there's a huge market, in which case you were able to have a very big financial return along with addressing a very important health need. So there is a whole range of impact investing opportunities. And I think for anybody who cares about social impact, it's making sure you're not thinking of it too narrowly and looking for those opportunities, whether it's a nonprofit that you're giving money to or for-profit. There are lots of opportunities where you can address a social impact and have a better than a negative 100% financial return.
Mariko, what are your thoughts as a money manager, like, have you thought about impact investing for a client's portfolio and then measuring not only the financial return on the investment, but the social aspect as well?
I'd say less the measurement on the social impact, because I think that's a little, a little harder for me to know. But what I have a number of clients who have online businesses who have created really great audiences who really believe in them, and they share their causes, and they will create either workshops or classes or products, and donate sometimes like Adam, everything, sometimes it's half, but it's really an integrated part of their process, that the same way that they're sharing of themselves, that they share the causes that they care about, and share the story of the causes that they care about, and are active participants in raising money for the causes. And so I think that that's something that I think business owners can really think more creatively about doing it. It's rather than a separate thing, it can be integrated in their business, and kind of create a virtuous cycle. The other thing too is that I think people often underestimate the variety of vehicles that I think are available for making a difference. So, for example, Impact 100, where it's local community built. Everyone contributes into. It's kind of like the old immigrant styles, where everyone contributes into a pot, and then whoever needs the money, gets to invest it. It's this idea that I think philanthropy can be small scale, community led. And the community deciding where to allocate in a very grassroots way, because it's really the grassroots who really need, like, $5,000 to a grassroots organization in your backyard is going to do so much more with that than some of the larger ones. And so I think that there's that awareness and curiosity growing about to what Kat is speaking about, ways that one can put money to work, whether it's slow money to lend to farmers, be part of the regenerative farming, or just to feel like your money can, again, it's not just charity, it's actually you're contributing to building something too.
It sounds like impact investing can come in many forms. Adam, can you talk about Humanetics? Because essentially you're reinvesting the booking fees into these charitable projects. Can you share how this impact investing model has influenced the growth and success of your platform?
With pleasure. I mean, when we first set up Humanitix, Josh and I, we self-funded the organization, and it's a non-profit with no equity. And as it became successful, we then reached out to philanthropists to help fund the growth and the scaling of Humanitix. Now, the whole concept and why it ought to be exciting for them to participate in is that if Humanitix works, we're not going to be coming back year on year like a traditional charity asking for more and more money. Because if Humanitix works, it's operating a successful business that not only covers its own costs, but also produces a surplus profit that it then distributes to making great impact, not needing any more external capital from funders. And so that's now what we've continued to do, and we operate now, we've operated for years independent of external capital, producing more and more profit, and essentially creating a greater and greater multiple on the initial capital that it took to seed fund Humanitix, which is the whole exciting concept of something like a social enterprise. To touch on some of the points that were raised before, it's a very exciting and interesting world, this impact investing, which is this idea that there's lots of ways to do it, where as a funder, either as a donor or an impact investor, it's exciting to have this idea that you can now have a return on your capital, either just to get your money back or a very, very low return. I think what's really interesting for the person who's making the impact investment or giving is to consider why you're wanting to cycle the capital, and that will dictate what you might want to be getting out of that. It's very exciting to want to get your money back. And often that might be what you want to do if the enterprise has been successful enough to return your money to you. However, in some situations, you might want to forego that entirely because you feel that keeping the money inside the nonprofit or the social enterprise that you gave the money to in the first place is still the most beneficial and impactful place for the money to be parked in. Think of it in, for example, the venture capital world, in the for-profit startup investment world. Venture capitalists make many bets on lots of startups, and it's a very high-risk place to be investing. But the idea is that one or a handful of your investments at best are going to work. And when they do work, what does the venture capitalist do? They don't extract their money out of that startup. They do the exact opposite. They participate in Series B, in Series C, in Series D. You double down on your wins. And so if that's what venture capitalists are doing purely for the sake of doubling down on the winners, on the enterprises that are doing so well, you might want to consider as an impact investor that when you find even a grassroots foundation that ends up doing so well and really being impactful in their community such that they could return the money to you, you might want to think, well, I might want to just leave the money with them because they're a winner and they're doing more and more. If anything, I might want to go double down in the analogy of a Series B or a Series C. So it's a nuanced conversation, and I think it's important to realize and recognize in yourself why you're wanting to cycle capital and reevaluating, wait a minute, with the money that I could get back, if I could think right now, where is the best place that I know of to park this money for the purpose of genuine social impact? The answer might be you have that opportunity, but you forgo it because the organization that you gave the money to in the first place is something that is a flywheel. And that's definitely and excitingly what we've seen from our initial funders who see the growth and success of Humanitix. And we could return the money to them, but they've said, no, keep going, because there's a flywheel that's generating here that it's beneficial that Humanitix has more capital to keep running. So don't return the capital to us. This is the winner. We can scale this up to tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that Humanitix is giving away, and that's where we prefer our impact money to be sitting.
I love the idea that it's self-funding and sustainable. I want to ask you, what is your motivation? Because for background, you were a consultant in technology. Josh was a hedge fund manager. So it appears that you guys both in careers that are lucrative potentially and could then serve on different boards and just donate privately to support different charities or causes that move you. But why leave those careers to start a social enterprise? I mean, that I think that's the mentality that I'd love to see more often. But in you, what was the motivation?
Curiosity, in a nutshell. The two of us were inspired by social enterprises, inspired by reading books from great professors like Muhammad Yunus, who invented microfinance in Bangladesh. And we were incredibly inspired by a career path that is truly innovative for genuine social impact and scratching at new ways that we can structure business and structure our professional careers such that we're doing something that's genuinely exciting, genuinely impactful, genuinely meaningful. And that is a lifestyle that is so much better to us than through whatever means possible, the alternative being to personally enrich ourselves as much as we can to then donate away. And that is for people who do that and genuinely give money away after enriching themselves is a fantastic strategy for philanthropy. And there's a lot to be said for that. But for us personally, as a personal motivation, what was more enticing and more exciting is to not delay the impact work. Like, what if you can find ways where you can infuse the two concepts simultaneously, run as successful as possible technology SaaS company that ingrained in its model is giving away all of its profits, and that helps it grow, which creates a feedback loop. And is that possible? No one's done that before, particularly in SaaS. And that was just too interesting to not try ourselves.
And I'm smiling as I'm hearing Adam talk, because I have the privilege of being at a university, and what Adam is describing about what drew him to found a social enterprise, that is a clear trend, where you have a generation of young people who are saying, no, I don't want to live my life in silos, where I make all the money here, and then at some point in another phase, I give it away. I mean, really, they are thinking now about where they work, where they live, what they buy, and there is a thread around how can I do this consistent with my values, and hopefully contributing to a better world. And I'm reminded of a colleague of mine, a Wharton professor who studies social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. And what he's found is that, and he focuses specifically on ventures that are started while the individuals are still on campus, right? So they're still undergraduate or graduate students, they're still young. And increasingly, a very high percentage of those entrepreneurs have an explicit social impact thesis in their ventures, either the product or the way they source it or the operation. So, for somebody like me who cares about social impact, what the story Adam told about himself, we're just seeing it more and more is in this younger generation of social entrepreneurs and leaders.
It's so interesting you say that, because one of the big question marks we had from many potential funders was, how are you going to attract talent if you can't offer them equity? At the end of the day, we've got to build great software with great engineers competing up against other great engineers who are getting offered equity by other startups and scale-ups. And how on earth are you going to attract great talent? And it's exactly this trend where people are saying, I want to earn a good income, but I just more deeply, I want to not have my life in silos. I want to be a part of something meaningful. I want to participate as a holistic part in my life of something that I'm proud and is consistent with my values.
I think that's such a great thing that I'm observing too, is this idea of living holistically in a life with integrity, but also what I'm seeing a lot is this desire for community. So Adam, one of the things that came up earlier in our pre-chat with Andy is that your customer service support is made up of real human beings, right? And not just chatbots. And that part of humaning is so hard in, with the planet, global warming, toxic capitalism, everything, right? The humaning has become so hard, and technology can be so isolating, that to use all the best parts about technology, but also do it in a way that promotes our humanity and promotes the need for connection, I think is really great. That seeing it to that level tells me just how completely, how holistically you're running the whole thing. But that's also what I'm saying. I mean, I think, I'm kind of an old fart. Younger generations, we do not need to perpetuate this bullshit, and I want to have a life with meaning, and how can I, how can I function well, in a society that can be very dysfunctional, and how can I help correct that, and also be able to look at myself in the mirror, and I just find all that so exciting. I really, really do.
I find it all very encouraging.
Yes.
For those watching live, please drop a comment to share with us where you're watching from. I saw Dan Morris, I think, on Facebook. So shout out to Dan and Rachel. Let's move to the next segment.